Well, gold has gained quite a bit in the last 24 hours or so. Do you guys think this is, the final call for sort of bargains in the mining world when it comes to gold, or is this gonna die out? Grab your crystal
Shorter.
balls. Grab your crystal balls.
I keep coming back to this, but I'm more and more focused on exploration. I mean, even with Jay, we've talked about development stories, and I see some interesting ones out there, but most of them are more dependent on the gold price moving up. And I like the whole idea of near term optionality, where you just need, and we've talked about this as well, where you need gold only to move up, $100 or $200, maybe going to 1,300, 1,400, or even 1,500, and that makes all the difference versus some ridiculous, you need $2,000 gold for a project to work out. I still kind of like those, but I'm so much more focused on we need more discoveries. Like we and gold, as much as any of the other commodities, we need the tier one discoveries. And so I like the plays where the exploration part is a big component, if not the whole component of it. And looking for those multi-million ounce projects that could still work under $1,200 gold, or even if they didn't work under 1,200. The key thing is the catalyst is going from no gold or a low level of gold to instantly having millions of ounces added. And in that case, we're still enough in the bull market, with people being interested, that it doesn't really matter, what gold does in the next month or two. And there will be the bonus if gold goes up, but most of the value is from the catalyst of that new discovery. So, that's my take on the gold market right now.
I gotta say, I really love it right now to be a buyer, in the sense where, just on a relative basis, it's nowhere near as dreadful as it was back in late 2015. So, in February, we had a pretty significant correction, and the gold and, these silver stocks were down, maybe even 40, 50%. Like they got shredded significantly. And I was in a bunch of silver stocks that really got hammered. Endeavor Silver was, I think, the prime example of that. But I'm not fearful right now at all. And I think these, significant pullbacks where you have, let's say, 4 out of the last 5 or 6 trading sessions are, just in the red. And, gold came off from, like, let's say, it hit like 1260, and then it went back down to just about 1200, so a $60 retracement. And then silver was like at 1840 down to just a little below $17. So it's pretty significant pullback. And if you're somebody who was buying in at the interim peak, then you feel pretty crappy for the most part, because your purchases are already down 30, 40, 50%. But again, going back to comparing to the end of 2015, when the fear was paramount and overwhelming, everybody just kept thinking prices were going to get lower and lower and lower, and these companies were going to blow up because the producers couldn't produce for like their all-in sustaining cost was basically right at the price of gold, so they were about to bleed cash. And then with the juniors, the fear was always dilution into oblivion. And if you contrast it to now, I just don't think that fear is there. And with these juniors, it's clearly evident when you look at all of the deals that are being financed right now, like all these equity deals, and these placements are not only being subscribed at maybe even a premium, but they're being oversubscribed. Like
Yes.
Whatever deal is announced, like I think Nighthawk Gold was a good example. I think they announced the financing at 10 million, and then it closes at over 20 million, and everything's like oversubscribed, and everybody wants to get into these exploration plays. I think that's just a very, very telling sign that this is not a bear market. So, whenever gold pulls back, even like, marginally, everybody's always, they want to just cite, like all these articles come out, the woodwork. It's like gold's going below 1,000. That's just like clockwork. It just keeps happening over and over again. It happened in December, and it just happened in February again. But even if gold retraces that 1050 bottom in the end of 2015 and even goes lower, I just think the floor is significantly reduced because all these deals and all this financing and all this money that's flowing into the sector, and not even just gold. I mean, commodities across the board, right? Copper is getting bid up, zinc's getting bid up. So there is a lot more interest and money flowing into commodities where I just cannot see, outside of like a major calamity, global crisis kind of thing, where these shares and these companies and like that they don't hold up well, and that alleviates a lot of fear for investors because back just a year and a half, 2 years ago, that was the biggest risk and worry for investors getting into exploration stories was you're going to run out of cash and you're going to have to dilute like significantly, right? And there's so many horror stories from the last cycle where these companies ended up trading at 1 or 2 or 3 pennies and they had like 1 billion shares out because they diluted so massively. And with that fear, I think off the table right now, I see any significant pullback. It's just a great opportunity to buy. So I'm definitely a buyer. I'm trying to pace myself and trim a little bit when we have nice runs, but for the most part, any big pullbacks, I'm just a buyer. The tide has turned for sure.
Yeah, same here. I'm patiently watching a few of the stocks that I've been wanting to get in for a little while, and just yesterday I was able to get some Sarama resources. So
Oh, awesome! Yay!
All right.
Join the team.
finally, yeah. But I was watching the stock like a hawk, and I'm like, gee, it's gonna come down a little bit more, because at the end of the day, when you have to just say, okay, this is enough, let's go buy it, or otherwise you're just sitting there forever waiting for it to come to like a penny, and it never will, right? But so I pulled the trigger yesterday with an initial position. But hey, if it goes down below 20 cents and the story hasn't dramatically changed, then I'll probably go in and buy some more. Yeah, it's amazing how, comparatively, it's such. And by the way, this is not a recommendation to buy or sell this this stock, but
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure, yes. Please do not
We're
consume
all
me.
invested in the Sarama story.
Yep.
So yeah, just comparatively, the market cap, it's just like, man, this thing is cheap. If the story works out as we hope and wish that it will, this really could have some legs. But yeah, that I'm in the sort of buying mode as well. Obviously, there's never enough cash for all the buying that you want to do when stocks pull back, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah. You guys know I could talk about Sarama all day, so I'm going to try to keep that part short. But on that point, I think that was really good patience, Fab, because I don't have a lot of patience a lot of times, especially for my first purchase. And so this is kind of like something for newbies or just anybody to think about on the purchases. I tend to be very impulsive to get that first leg in just to make sure I buy it. So if I was doing the same thing as Fabi did with Sarama based on the trading, I probably would have ended up buying it like 25 cents, as it pulled back from 28 or 29. And then as I would do more due diligence, then I would be, doubling down or buying more where Fabi has bought her first shares. Now this is better from your point of view, but like, sometimes I've experienced it enough in the past where I didn't at least get that initial position that I really kick myself when I'm waiting for that extra 1 cent or half a cent to get it. So there's different for different people. It depends on how large you want your overall position to be. But I tend to be more impulsive just to get that first buy. And then to what you said, then I'll start, if I'm lucky, I'll start buying more as it goes down. And for me, it's a lot harder, to buy more as it's going up. It's, it's different for different people, but it's an interesting thing to think about, initiating your first position and then, trying to decide how quickly you'll accumulate based on price action.
Oh, trust me, I am with you. I was unusually impatient with this one, but I usually just, when I'm sold to a story, I'm like, okay, if this thing runs, I will kick myself for the next 5 years. No more Bitcoin stories. Let's get in now. Let's go buy some. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I had this feeling that gold itself wouldn't really, be rip roaring all of a sudden. Obviously, I wasn't even taking into consideration, what the Fed would do and everything like that. I just looked at gold. I'm like, nah, this looks bearish in the short term. I'm gonna wait it out. I'm just gonna see how it does. I don't think there's gonna be any super duper exciting stories. And obviously, fingers crossed, no takeover talks happen during that time. But I think it's really luck. I could have waited all this time, and the stock could have ran up. Things could have happened in this short period of time. And so, no, I'm completely with you when you say, get your foot in the door and buy a little bit, and then watch and see, and then work
Yep.
your positions from there. That's how I usually do it anyway.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy. If when in doubt and you're really interested in the story, I think maybe as a compromise, just buy a small allocation, just initial first tranche, and then withhold the majority of your capital, waiting for the more favorable entries. But just getting your toes wet a little bit, just getting a little bit, I think is probably a good compromise if you really believe in the story.